Welcome. Today, we're going to do a deep dive and crack the code of Maharashtra's geography. And look, we're not just going to list a bunch of dry facts. We're going to learn how to spot the state's real signatures, and maybe more importantly, how to sidestep all those common traps that trip people up.
So let me just start with a question for you. What's the actual difference between just knowing some facts about a place and really, truly understanding its geography? Because that question is at the heart of everything we're about to get into.
And honestly, the answer is pretty simple. It really boils down to this: learning to see the patterns, the signatures that make a place unique. And, just as crucial, it's about knowing what isn't there so you can spot the misconceptions, the traps from a mile away.
Okay, let's jump right in. The thing about Maharashtra is its geography, its rivers, its soil, its minerals. It just pops up constantly when you're studying India. If you can understand its patterns, you've got a huge leg up. So let's get to it and crack this code.
First things first, we've got to start with the absolute fundamentals: water, mountains, and soil. Now, these aren't three separate things. In Maharashtra, they are totally connected, and they basically form the foundation for everything else we're going to talk about.
Okay, check this out. The state's rivers are basically flowing in two completely opposite directions. You've got rivers like the Tapi that are making a break for it, heading west to the Arabian Sea. But then you have these absolute giants, like the Godavari and its crew, flowing all the way east. So what's the deal? What could possibly cause such a massive split?
Well, the answer is one single, massive feature on the landscape: the Western Ghats. Locally, people call them the Sahyadri Range, and this absolute beast of a mountain chain is the Great Divider. Think of it like a massive spine running down the state, telling every drop of water which way it's going to flow.
And these mountains create another huge consequence you can see right away: the rain shadow effect. It's pretty incredible. The monsoon clouds roll in from the sea. They smash into this giant wall of mountains, and they're forced to just dump all their rain right there on the coastal Konkan region. But by the time those clouds make it over to the other side, they're all wrung out. There's barely any rain left, leaving the rest of the state high and dry in a rain shadow.
Now, this huge, dry rain shadow area is pretty much the famous Deccan Plateau, and the whole thing is made of ancient volcanic basalt rock. Over millions of years, that rock has weathered down and created one of India's most iconic soils, Regur, also known as black cotton soil. And the magic of this soil is that it holds on to moisture like a sponge, which is a total lifesaver in a drier climate.
All right, so we've got the lay of the land now. Mountains, rain patterns, soil, it all makes sense. Now let's dig a little deeper. Literally, what kind of resources does this place hold both on the surface and buried way down below?
When it comes to minerals, Maharashtra has some very specific calling cards. You just got to know where to look. If you're thinking manganese, you're thinking the Nagpur-Bandara belt. Coal, that's the Warda Valley. Bauxite, the stuff used to make aluminum, you'll find that up in the Western Ghats. And there are pockets of iron ore over in the Chandrapur-Gadchiroli area. See? It's not random. Each one has its own specific address.
Aha, but here's where we hit our first big trap. Knowing what's there is only half the story. You gotta know what's not there. So yeah, Maharashtra has plenty of manganese and bauxite, but if you start talking about it being a major source for something like monazite or chromite, you've fallen for the trap. Monazite, for instance, is a signature of the sandy coasts in places like Kerala. Totally different geological setup.
And that leads me to the ultimate mineral trap. This is the one that gets so many people, so listen closely. There are no diamonds in Maharashtra, no diamond-bearing kimberlite pipes, nothing. That geological signature belongs to its neighbor, Madhya Pradesh. It's a really common mix-up, so make sure you don't fall for it. Okay, let's pop back up to the surface and talk about the forests. And guess what? It all connects back to those rainfall patterns we just talked about. It's super logical when you think about it. Where it's wettest in the Western Ghats, you get these beautiful, moist, deciduous forests. Over in the drier Vidarbha region, you find the dry deciduous type. And in those super dry rain shadow spots, yep, you get thorn forests. It all just fits.
And of course, these different forests are home to some of India's most incredible wildlife parks. You've probably heard of the Tadoba Andari Tiger Reserve, a huge hotspot for tigers. There's also the Melghat Tiger Reserve. And then there's this really wild one, the Sanjay Gandhi National Park, which is located inside the city of Mumbai. How crazy is that? Okay, so we've got the landscape, the climate, all the natural resources. Now, let's turn to the human imprint.
How has all of this geography shaped the way people live, what they grow, and the massive projects they've built?
A perfect example is the Konkan Railway. I mean, what an engineering marvel, just snaking its way down that rugged west coast. It runs right through Maharashtra, Goa, and Karnataka. And here's another classic trap. A lot of people just assume it continues all the way into Kerala, but it doesn't. Its route is defined by that very specific stretch of coastline.
And you see this link just as clearly when you look at agriculture. Remember that incredible black soil we talked about? Well, it's perfect for growing cotton, so that's what dominates the Deccan Plateau. But over in the irrigated belts of western Maharashtra, sugarcane is king. Different geography, different signature crops.
But here's a really cool thing to remember. Geographical knowledge isn't static. Things evolve. And recently, a whole new agricultural signature has emerged from Maharashtra. It's now a major player in the turmeric game, part of a big producing belt along with Telangana, Karnataka, and Tamil Nadu. So that's a crucial, modern update to keep in mind.
Now, when it comes to massive water projects, Maharashtra's signature name is the Koyna hydropower project. It is a huge source of electricity for the state. The trap here is pretty obvious, confusing it with other famous dams. People might hear Big Indian Dam and think of Tehri, but that's way up in Uttarakhand. Or the Chamo projects, again, totally different part of the country. Koyna is the Maharashtra signature.
All right, time to pull this all together. Let's do a little rapid-fire review. This is your ultimate trap sheet, the absolute must-know distinctions to keep straight when you're thinking about Maharashtra.
First up, rivers. Maharashtra is the land of peninsular rivers, like the Godavari. It is not home to the great Himalayan rivers like the Sutlej or the Tista. That's a whole different water system, a whole different story. Mixing them up is a fundamental mistake. Second, minerals. Let's lock this one in. Yes, it's rich in manganese and coal, but Maharashtra is not a major source of monazite, and it is absolutely not where you find diamonds. Those signatures belong to other states. And finally, a really key point about deep geology. The foundation of Maharashtra is the Deccan Traps, all that ancient volcanic rock. It is not associated with the Dharwar Craton. That's a different, much older piece of the Earth's crust, and it's the signature of its neighbor to the south, Karnataka. So there you have it. We've cracked the code for Maharashtra, separating the real signatures from the common misconceptions. But the real takeaway is this. Now that you've learned to see one place with this kind of clarity, what are the signatures and what are the traps that you've been overlooking right in your own backyard?